All right, welcome to our ninth and final training, where we're going to be talking about how to create a renewable energy procurement roadmap. So to briefly review the overall series, this series has the intention of arming all of you with the skills to evaluate, set, and execute a renewable energy procurement strategy. We are in the last phase of this, the execution phase. We've talked about how to procure renewable energy, what are the different methods of doing so, and now we're going to be talking about putting together a solid plan to actually get you step by step along that journey. So this is our last module, and we're going to be talking about creating a detailed renewable energy roadmap. So yeah, these are the modules we've gone through so far. If you want to go back and review some of the procurement modules after this one, that might be good, because we're going to be, your roadmap is going to be made up of a portfolio of procurement options from the prior 3 or 4 training modules. So why develop a roadmap? Roadmaps are key for any long-term strategic process, but specifically a renewable energy procurement roadmap is going to outline business case and is going to create a very systematic step-by-step process with key actions to get you to that goal. If we remember all the way back at sort of the beginning of this training, we set a renewable energy procurement goal, which was kind of a bit amorphous and a bit in the clouds. And now we're talking about, okay, step by step, specifically how we're going to execute on that. So much like a map from getting to point A to B, that's exactly what a renewable energy roadmap is. So we have our goal, that's point A, and then we're setting the goal, and then point B, achieving that goal. And the roadmap is telling us exactly how we're going to get there. It's going to mention all of the key internal stakeholders, all the, who has responsibility over each step of the process, and it's going to set forth a specific timeline for meeting that. Roadmap should be, like any map, consulted frequently. So not something that you just, put some work into and some thought behind and then forget about it. It's your procurement journey is going to be a multi-year process. So this is going to kind of be your Bible for how to get to each step and ultimately achieve that goal. And you want to align your roadmap with the correct stakeholders and in consideration of the goal from the very start. So some things that you want to consider when developing your roadmap, we talked about earlier, considerations around your geography, what is available to you in those areas, what procurement methods, what types of EACs, what types of renewable energy technologies are available in your regions. You want to be thinking about your electricity load. So where do we need to source renewable energy to get to our goal? What are the largest chunks we can bite off initially? Where is that electricity load located geographically? Do we have, is it 90% in one region? So we want to focus on that and then kind of fill in the gaps later. Is it distributed across a number of different regions? We want to consider the regulatory environment. So just in the last module, we talked about a lot of regulatory concerns regarding power purchase agreements. So that is work that you want to be doing ahead of time to understand, is a PPA even possible in this region? Is EAC procurement even possible? And then you want to understand, specifics about your facilities to understand what types of, can you do on-site solar? Can you do, do you have the utility relationships to execute on a green tariff, for example? And then lastly, your procurement roadmap should be aligned with your broader sustainability goals. So we talked about that a little bit in some earlier modules. Your renewable energy procurement goal does not exist in a vacuum and is probably influenced by and influencing your ability to meet your larger goals, your emission reduction goals. So depending on the timeframes of that, that's going to indicate what timeframes you should be thinking about for your roadmap. So here's an example of what a procurement roadmap could look like. So in this case, we have the goal of meeting 100% renewable energy by 2030 across our global operations. So in the first few years, you see there's a lot of groundwork that happens. We're doing an electricity baseline. We're evaluating the markets to understand what options are available there. We're engaging internal stakeholders to build this roadmap, to announce the goal. We're doing detailed market analysis. And then starting in 2024, we're starting to execute on that. So you can see here we have, okay, we're going to purchase EACs for 50% of the US loads. We're going to start immediately with some EAC procurement. Next, we're going to move to some VPPA deals in the EU. Next, we're going to be purchasing some EACs in certain markets, and you can see it kind of builds on each step to get you to that 100%. It's tempting to say, okay, well, we have our goal is to hit 100% renewable energy by 2030. So let's start to think about this in 2028, and then we can just kind of like do it in the last couple of years. That is not a recommended approach because there is a lot of learning that is going to happen in the first few years. You're gonna go down some roads that may not be that may not work. You're going to learn a lot through this process, and so kind of setting some interim steps. Okay, we're going to do 50% in North America, and then EU, and then address different markets along the way. It's also helpful for your annual reporting. A lot of companies will get scrutiny because they'll set a goal and then they, might not do anything for a few years, and you don't want to be in that position. You want to be reporting on, incremental progress each year towards your goal. And so having a roadmap that is kind of stepped like this with different steps and different focuses as you get towards the goal is important. I'll also say, you can see here in the orange boxes, this is where a lot more work is happening on the upfront side. And then, after you kind of set the wheels in motion, then you can kind of just execute and continue these contracts moving forward. So the bulk of the work is going to happen at the beginning, and then you can kind of it will kind of taper off, and things will be running smoothly on the way to hitting that goal. This is just an example. Obviously, your roadmap is going to look a lot different depending on depending on what your electricity load looks like. For example, maybe it's all in North America, and maybe that's pretty simple. You can kind of tackle it in the first few years, and then just kind of hit your goal early, or sort of slowly ramp up to the goal. You might not have to segment it by region so much as we have here. But I just wanted to give an example of maybe a more complex roadmap that covers a bunch of different regions.
And earlier, it might be worth just mentioning here that when you look at the facilities available on the SEBA membership, there's a lot of webinars and enablement available to you, but also specifically looking at strategy is a great opportunity to talk to other peers and other companies around their strategies and find out if you've got companies within the same region as you, maybe they're picking up on useful information and actually having that collaboration there. It is a really true alliance of partners and customers looking to set a strategy and burn down a strategy on renewable energy.
Yeah, SEBA remains an incredibly valuable resource. Both, we talked about them a lot on the procurement side, how to procure renewable energy. Also, on the roadmap side of things, what are the types of conversations you need to have internally? They have a ton of resources on that and examples of electricity procurement roadmaps. I did want to mention, a lot of what we've been talking about are procurement methods and strategies in regions where it's easy to procure renewable energy, but you might not have that depending on where your facilities are located. And so part of your roadmap may need to touch on some of these difficult to procure regions. So a lot of places, Southeast Asia, Africa, parts of South Central and South America, it's a little bit more complex, a little bit more difficult to procure renewable energy. And so your roadmap is going to have to involve some conversations with utilities and some outside the box thinking. Some examples of stakeholders that can be helpful to you in these difficult regions are local policymakers. So, these are going to be folks who are, available who are knowledgeable on the local regulations and the infrastructure development that's taking place in these markets to bring these renewable energy procurement options to market. There's are often NGOs that are working in specific markets to make renewable energy procurement more possible. There's a lot of groups in Southeast Asia working right now to open up these markets more to renewable energy procurement. And then utilities, in a lot of parts of the world, it may not be simple to go for a PPA. There may not be EACs available, but you can kind of talk to your local utility and discuss, some bespoke procurement methods where they can develop a power purchase agreement for you, or develop a wind farm for you, or other renewable energy procurement options. And it may not be, it may be something where, you can use your demands. Maybe you can even group together with some of your peers to communicate that there's a demand for renewable energy in a certain market, and influence the utilities to create those programs. Just wanted to highlight, just because procurement hasn't happened in a region or with a utility doesn't mean that it's not possible. Just means that there might be some engagement that you will need to have with the utility. Here are just some tips on how to source energy in these difficult to procure regions.
And Elliot, I would just add to that. Don't think about this that you have to have 100% renewable energy goal all planned out. So the idea is what's possible. Where are your major operations that you maybe want to try to cover with renewable energy. Or even if it's not your major operations, but you just want to get started, right? So there's definitely easy ways to procure renewable energy for certain locations, certain facilities, and then certainly there's harder ones later. So I would say, don't let this intimidate you to not get started, that you have to have everything planned out and everything completely perfect. So the idea is, what can you get started with? And you don't even need to have a public goal. For example, you might have an internal goal initially to get more confidence and build more support internally at the executive level, or you just have a goal for a particular region. You don't need it for global. So don't. These are all things. Is a kind of a crawl, walk, run type approach, or you can run right away. It just depends on what kind of support you have, what kind of resources you have. But this is all just giving you a very broad brush of what's possible.
Your roadmap will identify a lot of these questions. We'll identify, okay, where can we put our resources to now? Where do we need to spend more time exploring, and put some timelines behind that. So, and then, one final plug for the Clean Energy Buyers Association. We've talked about them a lot in this training. They have a ton of resources around not only how to procure renewable energy, but how to develop these plans, these roadmaps. And again, these are just some of the many groups that are active within SEBA. And I'll let Guy and Nicola give one more plug for for this, because VMware is an active participant.
Yeah, definitely. VMware, we've been a member for about 4 years now. I would say that they definitely have a huge number of resources. It's an amazing community of buyers, of project developers, of service providers. The other thing is they have a boot camp that you can participate in, and it's basically a 2.5-day intensive. So there's all this information that we provided you here and much, much more. Plus, you have the camaraderie of all the other boot camp participants, and it's in a lovely setting in, well, they used to have it in Basalt, Colorado, just really beautiful up in the mountains. But I highly recommend checking it out. There is a membership fee and there's different levels. So depending on what you can afford and what you need to access, I highly encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, and I think the other important point is that it's not just North America focused, right? SEBA covers, a lot of information from all different countries around the world. So, please go and have a look at it. If you're a VMware partner and you use your partner, your company ID to kind of create your account in SEBA, then you'll qualify for a 6-month free trial. And hopefully, you'll like the assets and materials that are available to you and carry on with them, because it will definitely help you, decrease the amount of effort you're going to have to do, minimize the amount of mistakes you're going to make, and really have a better grip around your strategy and how you move forward.
Great. Well, yeah, that's all the content we have for this final module. So thanks everyone for participating.